The IDF is stepping up its attack on Hamas in the Gaza Strip, announcing progress in the last 24 hours, including the uncovering of key terrorist infrastructure in the city of Rafah. This included finding a massive 3-level underground network of smuggling tunnels that the terrorists call the Philadelphia Fort. At least 30 terrorists have reportedly been eliminated in a series of fierce battles with the IDF, even as the battle against Hezbollah in the north continues. Meanwhile, Iran has taken a dramatic and dangerous step that could have a grave consequence for everyone in the Middle East. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 277th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all its terrorist proxies throughout the Middle East. In the last 24 hours, have seen increased IDF offensive activity in the northern Gaza Strip. This activity is intended to directly increase the military pressure on Hamas. Further south, IDF forces operating in the city of Rafah have made a remarkable discovery. It includes a previously undetected network of smuggling tunnels running under the Philadelphia corridor, which marks the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. This is no ordinary tunnel network, but rather a massive underground maze with 3 levels and dozens of connecting shafts. This network of underground routes allows Hamas to smuggle enormous quantities of weapons, ammunition, and narcotics, and other contraband. The IDF has admitted that they had no idea how vast and complex the system of smuggling tunnels was before making this discovery. Although the IDF has found and demolished dozens of tunnels all over the Gaza Strip since the war began, nothing this impressive has been found before. Once again, it makes us sad to think about how much money, time, and effort was invested in this terror network that is meant only for terrorism, that should have been invested in improving the lives of Gazans residents. Meanwhile, the Air Force worked hard throughout last night, hitting terrorist targets from the north of the Gaza Strip to the south, including infrastructure that is used by Hamas terrorists to plan and execute terrorist plots against the IDF forces that currently operate in the Gaza Strip. The combined efforts of the Air Force and ground troops from Division 162 resulted with at least 30 terrorists eliminated in Rafah over the last 24 hours alone. This was accompanied by the usual discoveries of large quantities of weapons and ammunition that Hamas would no longer have to attack the IDF. In addition to this, the IDF spokesman announced that the Air Force had increased its attacks in the northern Gaza Strip in support of the ground campaign being waged by Division 98 in the Sajaiya neighborhood of Gaza City for several weeks. Dozens of terrorists have been eliminated in this campaign. The Air Force also announced that it had hit 2 rocket launching sites in Khan Yunis and Gaza City, preventing the launching of rockets into Israel. In the Nusirat region of the central Gaza Strip, the IDF announced on Monday evening that it had struck a school compound being used by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organization to plan and prepare attacks against Israelis. This is another example of these terrorists using civilians as human shields. But the Israeli forces tried to minimize civilian casualties by using precision-guided weapons in the strikes. All those cities and neighborhoods where the IDF is operating are considered important centers for Hamas if it wants to rebuild its hold on the Gaza Strip and on the Palestinian people. The IDF raids there caused great difficulties for Hamas, which is showing signs of severe distress. Sadly, the ongoing conflict also causes great distress for the civilian population of the Gaza Strip. Because of this, the IDF has asked the civilians to move to sheltered areas to avoid the fighting, such as the El Mawasi area and to its north. Before we continue, it's time to take an active part in spreading the truth. So please subscribe to this YouTube channel and share our videos with anyone who wants to know what really is happening in this conflict. If you'd like to receive more videos like this one, please consider making a financial donation by going to www.tbn.org/Israel or click the donate button on YouTube. Another front in this war is the diplomatic front, and there is some good news on this front to report today. Israeli officials involved in talks with Egyptian officials in Cairo regarding the Philadelphia corridor and the Rafah crossing say that they are making progress. The Israeli delegation, led by Shin Bet chief Ronen Bar, reported on Monday evening that their Egyptian counterparts are receptive to Israel's concerns about how the Rafah crossing should be operated in order to ensure that no weapons or other contraband gets smuggled through it and used by Hamas. In related news, Israeli officials involved in negotiations over a deal to see the remaining hostages released say that they are negotiating through intermediates with Hamas. But Iran and Hezbollah are also involved in the negotiations on the other side, using their influence with Hamas to push an agenda behind the scenes. Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah recently hosted the Hamas delegation in Beirut, led by Khalil al-Ahiyah, Yahya Sinwar's right-hand man. Among the topics that they reportedly discussed was the issue of hostages and the ongoing operations against Israel. This including strengthening the connection between the fighting scene in the Gaza Strip and the fighting in the northern border between Israel and Lebanon, so as not to allow the United States and France to try and separate the two scenes with tempting proposals for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. It is therefore not surprising that Hamas announced its willingness to resume negotiations with Israel on the hostage deal and to make concessions on the conditions it set in. This has many effects, including making it easier for Hezbollah to gain time and delay the major military attack planned by Israel. In a related story, this week, the AP news agency published details from internal correspondence between Hamas leaders in the Gaza Strip and the leadership in other countries. The report included assessments by American officials that the destruction in Gaza Strip or the pressure from Egypt and Qatar may soften the demands of the terrorist organization Hamas. The correspondence also indicated that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is unaware of the extent of the death and destruction that the war he launched against Israel on October 7th has caused to Gaza. Or possibly he's aware of it, but he's trying to conceal it from the Hamas leadership abroad, so they will not try to force him to negotiate an end to the fighting. So please, this is the time to spread the truth. So please take a minute and click on the follow button and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please share our videos with anyone who cares about what is happening here in Israel in this conflict. Now switching our focus to the northern arena. The IDF launched a strike overnight on Monday that resulted in the elimination of Hezbollah rocketman Mustafa Hassan Salman in the Al-Khalilia region. This evil man was an important part of the Hezbollah units firing rockets and UAVs into northern Israel, and he was also responsible for a variety of terrorist activities against the state of Israel. There is good reason to believe that Israel has eliminated a large portion of Hezbollah's senior command structure, and their ability to function and threaten Israel has been degraded by these strikes. This also humiliates them, as they have been talking very tough for years about how invincible they are and how Israel can't touch them. The evident fact is that Israel can find these senior leaders and take them out one by one, makes all that tough talk hollow. And this is embarrassing for them and also damages their morale. But they try to cheer themselves up by retaliating, and this usually takes two forms. The first response is usually a large barrage of fire towards Israeli civilian communities near the Israeli border with Lebanon. After each strike that ends with another Hezbollah leader eliminated, the communities that are adjacent to the northern border observe anti-tank missiles, drones, and rockets. This has been going on since the beginning of the war, and before it's over, these communities will have to observe even more hits. Hezbollah's second response is to launch drones at more specific targets in Israel and further away from the border. Sometimes they will try to damage Israeli military or strategic facilities. Their goal in extending the firing range is to prove that they are also capable of launching long-range missiles and to show the capabilities of the organization. They deliberately try to harm soldiers or civilians in the days after the assassinations of their senior officials as a measure to harm Israeli morale. If they could, they would also try to harm senior commanders in the IDF, but they do not have the military and intelligence capability to carry out such an operation. One conclusion we can draw from all of this is that Hezbollah has far more to lose and far more to worry about if a major war with Israel breaks out than Israel itself does. Hezbollah should also understand that if it continues to incite and provoke Israel, it will be responsible for the outbreak of a full-scale war, and the Americans will provide Israel with full help in the war, such as intelligence, arms, and defense in the United Nations Security Council. But that is only part of what Israel will need in a war with Hezbollah. It will also need the support of people like you. So that's why I'm asking you to pray for Israel in this time and also to help us share the truth. This is a spiritual war as much as it's a physical one. So we need prayer warriors like you. Shifting our focus once again to events in the wider region. Satellite images obtained by the Reuters news agency and published this week show that Iran has expanded two bases designed to house and launch long-range ballistic missiles. The images were taken by the commercial satellite company Planet Labs and show the Madraz military base from March and the Majir missile manufacturing complex from April. In the images, it can be seen that at least 30 new buildings have been constructed at both sites, which are located near the capital city of Tehran. Jeffrey Lewis of the Middlebury Institute for International Studies in Monterey, California, told Reuters that based on satellite images, the expansions began in Khujir last August, while the expansion in Modara started in October. The Reuters report also noted that the expansion might have been prompted by a Russian request from Iran to supply additional missiles for use by the Russian military in its war against Ukraine. However, American intelligence officials told Reuters that Iran also supplies missiles to the Houthis in Yemen as well as to Hezbollah, two partners in the axis of evil against Israel and the West. Also, according to experts who reported to the news agency, Iran's weapons arsenal is the largest in the Middle East and is estimated at over 3,000 missiles, including models designed to carry conventional and nuclear warheads. In response to questions about the satellite images, 3 Iranian officials who did not identify themselves by name told Reuters that the two sites were being expanded to increase the production of conventional ballistic missiles. This tracks with Iran's long-standing denial that it is building a military nuclear weapons program. Another Iranian official quoted in the Reuters report said that some of the new buildings will also allow doubling the production of drones. He explained that drones and missile components will be sold to Russia. Drones will be supplied to the Houthis and missiles will be supplied to Hezbollah. The 2 American researchers told Reuters in separate interviews that it was not clear from the photos what types of missiles will be produced in the new facilities, which appear to be still under construction. We should remember that in February, it was reported that Iran sent surface-to-surface missiles to Russia, but Iran denied that it had supplied the weapons. Washington announced that it could not confirm that the transfer did happen, but it assumed Tehran intended to supply missiles to Moscow. Additionally, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in the United States refused to comment on the researchers' analysis. A spokesman for the National Security Council also refused to confirm the assessments, adding that the United States has implemented various measures, including sanctions, designed to limit the production and export of missiles and drones from Iran. In a related story, according to Iranian media networks, the Supreme Commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Hussein Salami, boasted this week that Iran forcefully thwarted the attempt to isolate it from the world. He also declared that it proved that the world is much bigger than America and that there is no force capable of stopping the movement of Iran and its people. Once again, we can draw our own conclusions from all of this, and one conclusion is that the war is intensifying and looks like it could escalate into a world war. So please pray hard for the people who stand and stop evil. Pray for the soldiers of the IDF. Pray for the peace of Israel, and pray for the civilians that are affected by terrorist groups all across this region. We need to stop this evil here in Israel, in the Middle East, before it spreads to the rest of the world, to the United States and to Europe. So stand with us in support and in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.